Hey, you guys, welcome back to the salon. Now, one of the things that I enjoy, albeit in a somewhat obsessive way, I guess, is when I go back to revisit something that made a big impression on me as a child, from childhood, and then find out that the thing that I remembered had a much wider footprint than I realized, and that there's this whole entire rabbit hole of interconnected information and nostalgia and things like that I can dive into that I previously didn't have any awareness of. For example, I had actually been planning on eventually doing maybe a whole series along the lines of cartoons or like TV specials or something like that that's kind of scared me as a kid. And the half-hour TV special Rikki-Tikki-Tavi was definitely on that list. But then, not only did a listener rather fortuitously suggest that I cover it before I even mentioned anything about doing that, but I also found out that Rikki-Tikki-Tavi was only one of three animated adaptations of Rudyard Kipling stories that the legendary Chuck Jones had produced. Now, since I had not heard of the other two and was pretty sure that I had never seen them, I was willing to, I was willing to say, well, maybe that I saw them a long time ago and I didn't remember, but I was pretty sure that I had never seen them. So I decided that I was going to watch all three of them, matter of fact, and just cover kind of the whole trilogy. It's not really a trilogy because they're not really related. They're just different stories. So I decided that I was going to start with Rikki-Tikki-Tavi since that's the one that I saw dozens of times as a kid, and that's the one that I'm the most familiar with. So the original source of Rikki-Tikki-Tavi and the other two stories, of course, was Rudyard Kipling's 1894 anthology, The Jungle Book. Now, Rikki is a plucky little mongoose who's rescued from drowning by a British family who are living in India. And the cute little guy becomes their protector against this nefarious pair of cobras whose names are Nag and Nagaina that are hell-bent on killing the family. Now, this particular animated adaptation was made in 1975 when I was actually 3 years old, but I don't think I saw it until probably a few years later. I feel like I was probably maybe 6 or 7 when I saw it. It sure did make an impression, though, probably because it didn't really shy away from talking about death. Rikki-Tikki-Tavi, as well as the humans in the story, are shown to be in actual mortal danger, on several occasions, which, as I said, probably made a big impression on me at the time. Now, I always really loved the animation of this short, and I didn't realize until recently that it was animated by, Chuck Jones, or it was produced, written, directed by Chuck Jones, who, probably most people know, but who wrote, produced, and or directed a metric shit ton of classic Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies shorts, which I absolutely adored as a kid and still love today, matter of fact. And, I would probably do a whole other series, about my favorite old Warner Brothers cartoons, and it would probably be super long. So I may get around to doing that one of these days because I actually kind of like that idea now that I think about it. So the animation on Rikki himself is especially cool. He has these kind of sinister red eyes. They're not always red, but sometimes when he's doing his little snake hunting thing, they get all red. And it's kind of sinister, but it's also kind of cute. And I mean, just overall, the character design is just adorable as hell. He just he's always chittering and jumping up and down and waggling his little whiskers and whooshing around the place at light speed and shit like that. And it's super cute. So rewatching it, the cartoon isn't as scary as I remember from childhood, but nothing is, I guess. But it does have a bit of darkness to it that stuck with me after all these years and, kind of made me think of it when I was thinking about doing the series. I remember being especially upset by these other characters, these minor characters, the Taylor Birds, Darzi and his wife, telling Rikki that one of their babies had fallen out of the nest and Nog, the male cobra, had eaten him. The cartoon doesn't show that, obviously, but the idea of that, really fucked me up because I could picture it, you know what I mean? So it's oh my God, snake ate a baby bird. That's fucked up. You know what I mean? So just hearing about it, really upset me. I was also pretty terrified, I think, by the possibility that a venomous snake, and, you know, I didn't grow up in India, obviously, but I did grow up in swampy-ass Florida, so I do know a bit about venomous snakes, although I admit that cobras aren't indigenous to this region, but we do have a bunch of other venomous ones. But yeah, I was, like, freaked out by the idea that a cobra could, like, get through your house, like, through a pipe or something like that, and then just, like, lay in wait for you, like, apparently in revenge because you did something to piss them off. The scenes taking place that night in the cartoon were spooky too. Like, particularly the one scene that I remembered a lot, and I liked it again, like when I saw it recently, was they did like a bird's eye kind of a tableau of like the darkened bathroom, and it showed Nog the cobra like wrapped around this big jug in the corner, and he's like barely visible to whoever happened to wander into the bathroom that night for a wee, you know what I mean? So it's like just the thought of that was like, oh shit, that would be so fucked up. Also, the voices of the cobras, Nog's voice was actually provided by Orson Welles, who also narrated, and Nagaina was voiced by the iconic June Foray, who, I mean, she has done so many characters. I probably am most familiar with her from Rocky the Flying Squirrel, but she did, like, fuck tons of other characters as well. So she does Nagaina in this, and their voices in this, like, really, really creeped me out, because they were always doing this, like, really ominous-sounding whisper, like, when they talked. And that like really, I think I said like on one of my videos before that particularly like whispering and stuff, like I don't know, like something about it, if it's done right, like really like creeps me out. And these snakes kind of like the way they talk kind of creeps me out. Matter of fact, like near the end of the short, Nagaina has the human family like cornered on the porch and is threatening to bite the son, Teddy. And she's like under the table and she like hisses at him, if you move, I strike. And if you do not move, I strike. And that shit fucking stressed me out. Because I was like, oh, kid, you're fucked now. Because I was, you know, I was a little kid too. And I was just like, oh my God, that cobra's going to kill that little boy. And it's like, it really kind of like freaked me out. Especially like when she had that like scary fucking voice. She's like, I'm going to kill you no matter what, motherfucker. And there were, you know, some other anxiety inducing bits in there, including Rikki killing the small dust snake, the little brown snake, and later stomping on all of Nagaina's eggs, which I had forgotten about. That was actually only shown in shadow, but it still like kind of bothered me because like when I was a kid, probably because I always liked snakes when I was a kid, and I thought it was kind of like a dick move for Rikki to kill her babies. But the thing about it was that Rikki was cute and he was obviously like the hero, so I was really conflicted about the whole situation. So I think that kind of like stressed me out as well. There's also like a sequence toward the end where Rikki chases Nagaina down into her like burrow or a hole or whatever, and for a couple minutes you think that Rikki has been killed, and Darzee the tailor bird like even sings this really annoying like death dirge about it. That bird like sings too much like for my liking. I had totally forgotten about that. I guess I blocked it out. Matter of fact, when I rewatched this cartoon for this review, I could have sworn that Rikki died at the end, and that was what made it like stick with me all these years. But spoiler alert, no, he's fine. He actually kills the cobra. He kills both cobras and all their babies. Like, you know, it's like 2 generations gone right there. It's a fucking... It's a cobra genocide. But yeah, so he kills the cobra, he saves the family, and everybody lives happily ever after, except, like I said, the cobras and their babies, and the dust snake, who he also kills. Oh, and the baby tailor bird that got eaten. But everybody else is golden. So next up is The White Seal, which actually came out in the same year of 1975. It also had the voice of June Foray as the sole female character, but this time around was actually narrated by Roddy McDowall, who provided pretty much all of the other character voices as well, it sounded like. So all the male characters were Roddy McDowall in doing different voices. Watching it now, I'm pretty certain that I never saw this as a kid. Like, nothing about this was familiar. You can watch it on Amazon Prime. Actually, Rikki-Tikki-Tavi, I think, is free on Tubi, but the other two, you have to, like, rent them on Amazon Prime. I think that the third one I'm going to talk about might be available on Vudu, but I couldn't get it to work up for free. But this one's for sure on Amazon Prime. I think it's $3.99 or something like that. I will say, though, that if I had seen this as a kid, which is one of the reasons why I think I probably didn't, is I think that I would have found parts of The White Seal scarier than Rikki-Tikki-Tavi, mainly because it features sharks and one particularly very, very large sea creature, which always frightened the piss out of me when I was little. Like I said, I grew up in Florida. I grew up on the coast, so I grew up like going to the beach all the time and like being the Atlantic Ocean right there. So it's like I was always fucking terrified of sharks, and anything that was like really big in like deep water like really weirded me out. I had nightmares like that a lot when I was a kid. So the action in The White Seal actually takes place in a spot called Novastoshnah, which is on the island of St. Paul's in the Bering Sea between Russia and Alaska. So there's this big cranky bull seal named Sea Catch, and he has a wife named Matka. Now, Matka gives birth to a pup that she calls Kotick, who is like Snow White, unlike all the other brown seals. So everybody's just like weird. Like apparently like they think that he's going to change color like when he gets older, but then they're like, oh, I guess not. I guess he's going to stay white. And they think that's super weird because this is the first time that a white seal has ever been born in this part of the world or whatever. So the first part of the story like shows Kotick, who actually looks like a little white seal version of Rikki-Tikki-Tavi. Like the face, it's, you know, it's a Chuck Jones production, and a lot of his character design was like similar. So it kind of looks like that. So it's super cute. So Kotick is like learning to swim and like, you know, just growing up and stuff. And Matka, his mother, is teaching him how to avoid getting eaten by sharks, which is always a good thing to avoid. He also ends up talking to this like massively, like massive fucking whale, which is horrifying. He says he's 87 feet long, but otherwise he seems friendly, even though in real life, I'm pretty sure that whale would have just like snacked on Kotick just as soon as look at him. But in the cartoon, like Kotick is literally the same size as, well, actually he's not even as big. He's like smaller than the whale's like eyeball. Like this whale is like giant. And even watching it now, even though it's not a bad guy, it's like a friendly whale, but the size of it like just like stressed me out. I don't know why. I was just kind of like, holy shit, look how big he is. So everything seems pretty much chill for a while, other than the scary sharks, that is. Oh, and particularly the hammerhead shark is like really, really scary. I mean, he just like pops out like his head, and I was just like, holy fucking shit, look at that. That would have like made me piss my pants as a kid. But yeah, so one day though, Kotick decides he's gonna follow a boat, not really knowing what it is. He's like, oh, it must be okay because it's like another sea mammal because it has a flat tail. That's kind of how he makes the distinction. Now his mom finds him before anything bad can happen, but she warns him that he always has to stay away from boats because boats are full of men, and men are the bloody worst. And as an illustration of this in the cartoon, the boat leaves a real nice like slick of garbage in its wake, and I'm like, yep, that's men all right. And then Matka, his mom, tells Kotick that he'll be able to recognize men by their habit of wearing the skins of dead seals. And I was just like, yikes, is that where this is gonna go? Okay. So not long after this, Kotick is hanging out on another island, like with all the other young bulls, and the men do indeed come clad in seal skins with clubs raised. They're just kind of like going, and they got these big like jingly things like to kind of herd all the seals, and then they like raise the clubs, and I was like, oh no. I was like, what the fuck, Chuck Jones? I was like, are we about to see like some fucking, we about to see some Watership Down action happening here? Because I'm not ready. But thankfully though, Kotick pops out and goes ham on the guys. And because he's white and is backlit somehow by some like shadowy hellfire kind of animation, the dim bulb men actually think he's a ghost seal, like come to reckon with them for their wanton seal murder. And they basically like beat feet. Like, so he runs them off because he's just up there being crazy, and he's white and they've never seen a white seal before. So that's hence why it's called the White Seal. So, you know, crisis averted. I was like, whew, like I said, I wasn't prepared. I mean, not that I really thought a kid's cartoon was going to show guys like bashing in seal heads with clubs, but it's a testament to the fucked upness of the 1970s that I wasn't entirely confident that I wasn't going to see that either. You know what I'm saying? And if you grew up in the 70s, you know what I'm talking about. So the rest of the story actually details Kotick's quest to find the sea cow, who apparently knows where there's an island where men don't go. So Kotick actually finally finds it, and all the seals go there and live in safety forever after, except for all those sharks that want to eat them. There's still that. Now, I haven't read the original story that this was based on, but it seems like, at least from what I could determine, that it's a lot more graphic in its detailing of the aftermath of the seal hunt. So even though they didn't go there in the cartoon like the original story does absolutely go there. The website that I read said if you were reading this to children, pro tip, you might want to skip over that part because it's really upsetting. Likewise, there's a little bit of light racism in there against the Inuit, which actually the story categorizes, I think, as not clean. So they're like, yeah, I might want to skip over that too because that's not really all that nice. So lastly, I watched the third of the Chuck Jones adaptations, which was from 1976 and was called Mowgli's Brothers. And I don't think I ever saw this one back in the day either. Although in a lot of ways it was kind of familiar still because it covered a lot of the same ground as, you know, Disney's 1967 animated film, The Jungle Book. Now, like The White Seal, this 1976 short, which was originally broadcast on CBS, I believe, was voiced by Roddy McDowall, who did, I believe, all the male characters, and June Foray, who did all the female characters. But unlike The White Seal, Mowgli's Brothers seemed like it largely kind of shied away from more overtly frightening imagery. Like they took out the scary giant snake Kaa from the story entirely, for example, which was a shame because I think Kaa was probably my favorite character from the 1967 adaptation. And also, this made the tiger Shere Khan, I guess, like a lot less intimidating than he was in the Disney version and in the original story, I'm presuming. So story goes that Rama and Raksha are a couple of wolves with a litter of cubs, and they live among the Seoni pack. So one evening, a naked human baby wanders into their den, pursued by the tiger Shere Khan, who had been chasing the kids' parents. Now, killing humans is against the law of the jungle because if you do that, like, it threatens to kind of bring down the wrath of, like, men's guns and fire and stuff like that on all the denizens of the jungle. So it's, like, you know, not happy for anybody. But Shere Khan evidently gives no fucks and insists that the man cub be given to him as a delicious hors d'oeuvre. Now, the wolf mother, like, thinks the little bugger is cute, though, as the kid very boldly, like, scuttles in among the wolf cubs and starts nursing from one of her teats, which is a little bit weird. So she puts her paw down and runs the tiger off, basically like talking smack about him being a cattle killer, which is apparently in the jungle like a really loser thing to be, which, yeah, I guess I can see that now that I'm thinking about it. Oh, fun fact, in the original story, Shere Khan is literally lame, as in he has a bum leg. He's also normal colored, like orange, in the story, and I think in the Disney version too. Though in the 1976 version, they made him a white tiger. I don't really know why, but whatever. Shere Khan also has an ass-kissing lackey, by the way, a cross-eyed jackal named Tabaki, who kind of looks like Wile E. Coyote after a month-long meth binge. So there's that. So there's a meeting of the council to determine whether Mowgli, who is actually Mowgli the frog, they named him that because he doesn't have any hair. They want to see if, like, if there's enough wolves, like, to vote him to like let him into the pack. And though none of the wolves frankly seem all that enthused about letting him in, Baloo the bear speaks up for him, promising to teach him the law of the jungle. And of course, the Black Panther Bagheera offers the wolves the fresh carcass of a bull that he just killed if they'll let Mowgli like hang with them, as he's kind of also taken something of a shine to the chubby little rugrat and his cute little pert behind. So the story then follows similar beats to the Jungle Book, minus the giant python and the bull elephant and the kidnapping monkeys. Mowgli essentially like grows up among the wolves and the bear and the panther, and has his kind of life put on the line by the aging out of the pack's leader, Akela, and the younger wolf hunters being swayed by Shere Khan into overthrowing Akela and feeding Mowgli to the tiger. As in the original story, Mowgli uses his mastery of fire against Shere Khan. He goes into the man village and steals fire, and, you know, the animals don't know how to use it, and they're scared of it, obviously, but he's not. And he has to eventually, like, when he gets old enough, he leaves his friends in the jungle, and, you know, he was very sad about it, to kind of go and be with his own kind in the man village now that he's kind of, like, grown to sort of adulthood. So this one wasn't nearly as dark as the other two adaptations. I mean, yeah, there was the threat of death all the time, but no one really got terribly hurt in the end. And kind of, you know, the big bad of the piece, who was Shere Khan, just got run off with nothing but kind of like a singed butt, like for all of his villainy. There was nothing like, you know, Rikki-Tikki-Tavi's multiple dead snakes, crushed snake eggs with implied snakelet deaths, and the devoured baby bird, which, like I said, they didn't show, but they talked about it. And also there was nothing like the disturbing scenes of just massive toothy sharks sharks or terrified seals cowering under raised clubs like there was in The White Seal, still, it was very cool to see a Chuck Jones infused, kind of turn at the Jungle Book, which I'd only ever seen done by Disney animators, frankly. So it was kind of cool to see like another take on it. So hopefully I'll get around to doing some more breakdowns of scary animated films or specials or whatever from the 1970s and 1980s, because there are definitely some more that I'd like to cover. But until that time, whenever that is, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little trip down memory lane with me. Thank you for dropping by the salon as always. And remember to like and share if you like this content, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And remember to go over to scaresalon.com, where there's a lot more written content, book reviews, movie reviews, all kind of other fun stuff that you can read. And I'll see you guys again on the next one. Bye.